What's up, everybody, and welcome to a WNBA State of Mind where we mainly discuss basketball, but we love other sports. I'm here with my guy, Don Dada. Nephew Viz is going to chime in later for a great show. Don Dada, the topics this week around the leagues are incredible. Listen to some of the headlines. Jewel Lloyd to Vegas. Kelsey Plum to LA. Tennessee puts in a bid for a WNBA team with Candace Parker, Faith Hill, Tim McGraw, and a Peyton Manning group. The name will be, with a nice touch, Tennessee Summit. The Detroit Shock is supposedly coming back with Grant Hill, Tamia Hill, and Chris Webber, just to name a few, headlining the bidding group. Talk to me. First, let's roll back. Jewel.
Now, we need to archive some of our old shows and start putting those boys out because look, didn't I tell you at the beginning of the WNBA season what was going to happen? There was so much friction in that locker room. It was so unfortunate. Somebody had to go. And the Black Mama it was. She's going to the Aces and we
going to the Aces. That could be an interesting pick.
Yeah.
The reason why, I would back it up is because of the USA basketball connections that they already have.
Yeah.
So she already has, chemistry with a couple of the players, okay, i.e. the starters, Asia Wilson, those two can develop a 1-2 punch, 1-2-3 punch over there now.
Yeah.
Be very, very interesting. I would like to see, okay, Nephew Vid is going to be chiming in a second. I think the combination is going to be absolutely fantastic. Another thing, and the reason why I think that they could gel rather quickly is because of the fact that, they're quick.
Yes.
And they can move. And
they take up a lot of space.
Yes. And then the off-season workouts that they do. Now, they did lose two coaches who were very, very instrumental.
Yeah.
Okay, in helping the players in the off-season out there in Vegas. But them getting Jewel Lloyd was man, fantastic find. What do you think, Vid?
And let me get right. Starbucks had me a little tired today. So anyway,
it's okay.
They got to pay for that promo.
I think I like the trade. I think we're talking about the trade. I came in late. I think it was good. It's definitely good for Jewel. Think she wore out her welcome in Seattle. I think we talked about that about a month and a half ago. New scenery. I just didn't expect Kelsey going to LA. I thought she would have, been traded to Seattle, but I know she doesn't have any control in that or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I like the trade overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kelsey going to LA, they needed some more veteran leadership. She goes over there and she just teams up with her ex-teammate. And it's just going to be nice. Once they, get out of, their players out of, the injury zone, and they come back. I think Lexi was struggling with something that was going on with her stomach. Yeah. So she was in and out. So it was tough for them to get going, you know. But I think that LA, I think it's a win-win for both of them, and I don't think Kelsey was ever going to entertain going to Seattle. I don't think that was a part of the deal. I'm sure that, like a lot of times we don't have control over stuff, but I'm sure she was like, listen, here's a few places that I won't go. I'm sure that was. The next thing up, okay? Tennessee puts in a bid for a WNBA team with Candace Parker, who was named the GM for the Aces. All right. Faith Hill, Tim McGraw, and Peyton Manning. Okay. The name of the team is going to be called Tennessee Summit. Tennessee Summit. What you think about that?
Oh, I am excited. I am a Pat Summit disciple when it comes to coaching. Early in my career, I worked a few of her camps in the summertime. We spent time together. I love her entire family. Rest in peace to her. She did so much for the game of women's basketball. That's a fantastic honor. And I know her son, Tyler, is absolutely elated for what's been done and the way that they keep honoring his mom, as they should. I think it's a fantastic thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I'm going to direct this towards you, Vid. You were, going to Old Dominion back in the day when, it was Old Dominion Tennessee rivalries. So talk about, how important it is for either of those two locations to have a team.
Hey, definitely excited. Hopefully they get it. To piggyback off of D, um, I think it's a long time coming. She doesn't get she gets credit, but I think as the years move on, she doesn't, she's fallen out of that, whole, the
Yeah,
picture. We talk about,
Pat Head Summit. We certainly did expect to have her with us a lot longer than we did. We like who'd have thought that. We think that right now we'd still have her with us. Instead of doing something to foster and develop her legacy further into the future, so people remember her. And what a great way to remember her! What a great way to honor her legacy by having a team, and then it's called the Tennessee Summit. And then now we're going back to the bad girl days. All right, Detroit Shock. Okay, is supposedly coming back with Grant Hill, Tamia Hill, Chris Webber, amongst a grocery list of other people that are in this group, headlining the bid lining group for this team. And so, I remember Detroit was not one of my favorite places to go.
I'm out. Goody, why is that?
I mean, it just wasn't one of my favorite places to play. It was like, a pain in the neck. It was a bear, the crowd, I remember there was this one white guy, older white guy, and he used to harass everybody, not just me. And he knew you by name, your stats, the last game that you played, if you played well, if you didn't, oh, go sit down, yo, we're gonna school you today, Goodson. I don't even know why you showed up, but then at the end of the game or the beginning of the game, the guy's asking for, autographs, a tough atmosphere to play in. But we're talking about Bill Lane Beer and Cheryl Reeve back in the day when they had their grips on Detroit. I could sit and have I got so many different stories of Swing Cash, Cheryl Ford, playing against players like that.
Deanna Nolan, Tweety.
Yeah, Tweety,
Katie Smith.
Katie Smith. The list goes on and on with the heavy hitters that came out of that team.
Absolutely. You got to give it up to Tom Gore's owner of the Detroit Pistons, and also the Ford family, who, stepped up and said, hey, we back women's basketball here in Detroit. Well, not only do we back it, we're going to back it with our cash. So you got to give it up to the Ford family, who's doing a wonderful thing with the the Detroit Lions. Sheila Ford, um, she's been absolutely tremendous for the city of Detroit. The Lions are doing so much for the community. The new mayor, Duggan, they've done so much for that city. They've revitalized their downtown area. They've revitalized a lot of those stadiums that the teams play in. So it's a hotbed right now.
Yeah, it'll be nice to see, some of these teams, the reemergence of teams. And, I hope one day they reach back and go back into the Richmond, Virginia area where, we had the ABL teams, we had that city rocking. We had that city rocking, and there's definitely a market in Virginia, for a WNBA team. So I hope that they have one there too. It'd be awesome for them to have teams in markets where, there's heavy hitter teams, and not just Old Dominion. I'm talking about UVA as well, who's a heavy hitter team. JMU is also a heavy hitter team. So there's a lot of good teams in Virginia. So I certainly do hope that they take that into consideration, or we find a marketing group that can look for something like that. And you're listening to a WNBA State in the Mind. I'm sitting here chopping it up with my guys, Dominique, Don Dada, Wilford, Nephew,
Yeah.
Vic, Lamonte Bugs Jr., chilling out, talking about the WNBA. We were just chopping it up, talking about Drew Lloyd, the trade, Kelsey Plum, WNBA adding 2 more teams, possibly the Tennessee Summit, and then the Detroit Shock. I don't know if they have the same name, but a Detroit team that will emerge from all of this. On the flip side, in the NBA, the biggest trade story of them all, a blockbuster trade. Lakers trade Anthony Davis and Max Christie, who was playing well, for Luka Doncic and a couple of other things to the side. It's a new direction for both teams, but the LeBron Luka duo will be heavily watched. I mean, can this put LA back on top? Will Luka get in shape now? I mean, I know Kobe would be all over him. It wouldn't be even a question. It wouldn't even be an answer. You guys remember Kobe versus Shaq with the whole, hey, listen, you need to get in shape. So if Kobe was there, we already know what's going down. But can LeBron trigger a response? You guys, give me your thoughts. Of course, it's going to be heavily watched. Let's talk about that. How many eyes are going to be on this LeBron Luka duo?
It's going to be, whew, a lot of eyes. I mean, we cannot even imagine how many eyes on it. Their style is very similar also, could score, could get double figures in assists, rebound, right? I think the question is how well how are they going to play together? You know what I mean? Being that both of them are pretty ball dominant. But, you know, I think with one more piece, the sky's the limit for the Lakers.
Interesting take, Vid. Interesting take.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it to you from 2 different sides here, because my phone, this little thing right here, has not stopped ringing since everything went down last night at 11:30. I'm on do not disturb now so that I can be on with you guys. I'm gonna give it to you from the business end of things. On the LA side of things, Rob Pelinka, he hasn't been in the best graces of management. The Bus family, things are a little iffy, but he's trying to get back into the good graces. We all knew a move had to be made. There was no doubt about that. Something had to shake. So, LeBron and AD not being aware, for people that don't understand the business of basketball, just like my guy Rob Murphy said, when that third door closes, there's only a few in the room that can make that decision. So the decisions that were made definitely came from the top. Those conversations have been going on for a while now. There was a little small beef here and there between LeBron and AD, kind of like we talked about earlier. Nothing, it was all basketball stuff. It was regular things that happen in the locker room, regular things that happen on the basketball court, you know,
Allegedly.
allegedly. Allegedly. So, you know, when you talk about the dynamics of what's going to happen on the basketball floor with LA, you still got a rookie coach in JJ Redick. How will he respond in the playoffs? We all know the playoffs is a totally different ball game. It's February. That means you only really got a month. We got the All-Star break coming up. You have a month and a half to kind of, right this ship, get everybody on the same page. And just like you said, you got two ball dominant guards, will dual forwards that, that they got to figure that out. And they don't have a lot of time to figure that out. And you also are lacking in size. You give up Anthony Davis, where's your rebounding gonna come from? Who's gonna rebound? Who's gonna block shots? On the defensive end, they're gonna take a hit. Luka, unfortunately, can't guard a parked car. I'm sorry. It is what it is. On the Dallas side of things, they had some concerns, about his weight and about his conditioning, and that's been there since the very beginning of when they signed him. So when you look at what's going to happen on the floor with the Mavericks, you got some slight improvements there. That AD defensively, what will AD do on the offensive end of things? Will he stand by the 3-point line and become the next Karl Anthony Towns and take 23s a game and forget about, anything in the post? Will he open up things for Kyrie Irving, who's been playing absolutely bananas and out of his mind? They still have a very young team. So neither one of these teams are going to win a championship this year. That's not happening. Take that out of the equation. But there are some things that both squads have to build on for the future. It's also a move where those in the front office, if it doesn't pan out the way that those ownership groups think so, you out the door in 2 years. Yeah, you cut. You're done.
So who wins the trade?
Dallas.
Trade?
Definitely Dallas. Because you added, you didn't take away anything really. Luka can't guard a parked car. You had him and Kyrie and Clay. You had all that scoring. You needed some defense. Take away the superstar aspect of all of that and just look at the basketball side of things on the floor. What works?
But wasn't Dallas in the championship
They
last year?
were. They were last year.
And then AD LeBron, how did that do?
Every season is different.
I get, I'm not, but it's because I'm a Laker fan also. So,
Yeah.
Being unbiased, but we talk about, I seen online that the Lakers won, right?
Mm-hmm.
The trade. It all comes down to health. We know
Yeah.
that AD has been injury prone as well as Luka.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked, in your opinion, who wins the trade? To me, I think the Jazz actually wins the trade. That's the third team
Oh,
we're
well,
not
we
talking
all
about.
know what Utah is doing. Cooper flag. That's all I'm gonna say. Cooper flag.
Listen, they all got a nice little slice of the pie. We're gonna see who, comes out on top the quickest. Like I said, good for Palinka, who was on the hot seat. Okay.
Yeah.
I knew that And I said, we talked about this before we even started the show, Dom, that Dallas was wanting to get rid of him for a while because Luka has a tendency to come in out of shape and not wanting to, he's got, bad work ethic, and so they both lose on that because, a lot of these injuries come from, you not working out and you're not doing the work that you need to do on all sides to stay in shape and to stay out there on the floor. So, both of them are injury prone, can they get
Hey, you
Luka's
know
weight
what,
down?
Ben? Hold on one sec, Goody. I'll tell you who wins the trade. The NBA. Ratings go up. That TV rights deal, they calmed down because they took all that money a couple years ago. So the NBA, that's who really won. That's why they let it go through so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's fantastic for the league. I think it's fantastic for the players. I hope that they all, fulfill their ends of the bargain. I hope that Luka gets in shape. But like I said, LeBron's not Kobe in that department where he's confrontational. LeBron may be a little a little more non-confrontational and make a statement on social media. Kobe is an in-your-face type of dude.
Yeah.
Yo, you need to get in the weight room or you need to, stay out of McDonald's or you got to stop partying or you got to lay off them beers. That was Kobe. So we'll see how that all pans out. In the meantime, there's a lot of good basketball going on, you guys. My players to watch this season, um, Amen Thompson. Amen Thompson out there in Houston, super athletic. He's just getting it in. He is getting it done.
Yeah.
Getting it done. And when they stole one in New York, I was really, really impressed with him, especially when they were on the road. He was coming up with some big time steals. And that's what I like about him because, you either with a player, you're either going to get, a good offensive player, a good defensive player. Few and far between are going to like really, really have it all together on a defensive and offensive player. And he's one of them. Jalen Green, also Houston, team to watch. I love them. You know, um, they're just playing out of their minds. Jalen Green, he's not the biggest, the strongest dude, but I was when we were talking, just chopping it up about a week ago, talking about him and how he's the type of player he's good at, and he masters the art. Just like Shy, they master the art of getting up in a player's chest,
Yeah.
and that's why you can't block their shot because they jump into you and they take the airspace before you take the airspace. And so, I love that about Jaden Green. Of course, Kate Cunningham is blazing, post-injury blazing. Not too many players, come back the way that he did, and quickly. Look at Paul George. His process was a long period of time. And when he got hurt, he wasn't an older player when he got hurt. He was still young. But it's just like, what's that player's work ethic to get back? And so I love to see his progress. Zach LaVine, like, I talk about him all the time. That's my guy. 29 years old, got that bounce, can drop 50, 60, 70, whatever you need on a given night. Does he go to Golden State? Does he make them better? If that happens, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Instant contenders right there. If that was to occur. I got a quick Kobe story. When you mentioned my guy Kobe. This is ABCD camp. Maybe around maybe around 2000, 2001. LeBron at the time was a junior. Sebastian Telfair, he was in the building. I think he was in 10th grade. Lenny Cook was there. I was working on staff, and Kobe comes in to speak, and everybody's thinking he's gonna come in, he's gonna talk about the NBA nightlife, how great it is to be a superstar. His first words to all of those kids were, "Hey, when you come into this business, your thing should be working as hard as you can for as long as you can. He was like, what's important to me? Come in, do your work, start you a family, have you some kids, and just keep it at that. He said all that other stuff, the drinking, smoking, the partying, the going out, he was like, I don't do none of that. I'm all about this right here. And he had a basketball in his hands. That's when I knew he was a different kind of person. And everybody's eyes got so big that, like I said, they thought he was going to talk about nightlife and the superstar and all the money and the jewels. He wasn't about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the difference between average players and all-stars. Right there. Sums it all up.
Speaking, I got a question before we get out of here. So you said all-stars, right? Who do you feel were the biggest snubs for the all-star game? Or do y'all feel anybody got snubbed?
LaMelo Ball. I understand they're not winning, but the way he is destroying the other guards in his conference, I mean, heck, Mitch Richmond used to play with the Sacramento Kings. They sucked every year, but he was always named an all-star. Why? Because everybody in his conference, they couldn't guard him. I
Yeah.
don't know what that's about. And my guy, Trae Young, y'all know how I feel about Trae.
Yeah, I think that
Not
there were
unfair.
so many good guards, not average guards. There's so many guards playing good, man. And it's really hard to figure out who to put on the team. And I don't really feel like there were like snubs. I just feel like, dang,
But
there's
Goody, isn't
not
the
enough,
All-Star game for the
not enough
fans?
room. There's not enough room for everybody.
The All-Star game is for the fans. LaMelo led all votes, fan voting. How's he not
Oh,
on the team?
yeah, I know. Listen, you know that I'm a LaMelo Ball fan. I love him. Um, and I'm one of those players that got hit by that on
Hey,
several
you
occasions.
had a couple
So
of years where you should have been an All-Star starter.
two years.
I count three.
Started, yeah. The third year I just was like, give me that. I ain't, but when they first had it was pretty much decided who was gonna be an all-star. In the second year, Fred Williams I thought he was gonna have a baby. I thought he was gonna have a coronary on these people because I didn't make it. And then the third year, I just was like, that's all right, y'all, I won't be denied. And I just came in averaging 20 something points a game for like the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season. So they had to it was like I wasn't going to be denied that year. I was not. 2002, I was not going to be denied. And so, sometimes you got to just keep kicking in the door, waving the 4-4, and then, until they open it up, what can you do to separate yourself? Now, those guys who didn't make the team, of course, they're gonna feel some type of way, but you just keep digging and get in the gym, and also it's on the team to put those players in a position to garnish those awards.
Yeah, they got a campaign. You got a campaign for your All-Star.
Exactly, exactly. And you're listening to a WNBA State of Mind on all platforms. So go listen, download, like, share, subscribe to past shows. We love you. Sammy Sosa. Peace out.